thank you so much. And Jeffcoat, I turn it over to you.
Awesome. Okay, I always have to make sure my mic isn't off. So I really appreciate you all having me today. As Larusha said, my name is Jeffcoat, and I'm from South Carolina. I'm an engagement expert and a PhD candidate at the University of Albany in New York. So my research considers how our organizations engage with stakeholders online, and today I'm going to discuss just that, and more specifically, how social media communication can be done effectively. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm going to share screen and we'll get started. Okay, great. So I titled this presentation Digital Relationships 101 because social media, many things are like dating. And as I learn more about it, it's, even more true. So with that, I wanted to sort of approach this like a opportunity to create relationships with people via digital platforms, via social media. So first off, we're going to basically just go through the run of show, if you will. So first, I'm going to give you, an idea of what to expect today in our short time together. We'll have an icebreaker where I will be able to gauge your expectations, and then I'll give you an overview comparing virality and engagement, and then I'll share some applicable theories and social media communication models that you all can keep in mind as you're creating content and engaging with people online. And then afterwards, I'll share a formula that I've come up with that will help you create extraordinary, hopefully engaging experiences with social media. And then lastly, I want to hear your ideas. So we'll take all these things and apply them. So this is the icebreaker. Let me see if I can throw this in here. Wait, I'm gonna escape. And then so what I want you to do is to take this link, and you're going to put it in your computer, and it's going to give you a Jamboard to engage with. And this is not working. Oh, there it is. Okay. So there's your link. And so I moved back to South Carolina some time ago. And when I was in New York, I really, really missed South Carolina. I really, just thought of all the things, right, that I wasn't able to do in New York. And so when I came back, I was, pleasantly surprised to be sort of reintroduced to the palmetto bug. And I definitely I underestimated the number, the size of palmetto bugs. So with that, I made a little icebreaker that allows you to use palmetto bugs to apply them to my wall, as I've seen multiple times as I've been back in South Carolina. And what I want you to do is use those to show me what exactly you're wanting to get out of our meeting today. And so we have two options. One is going viral, which I, had this inclination that a lot of people were interested in that particular thing. And then the other thing is engagement. And so I'll give you maybe like 30 or so seconds to go and place your palmetto bug where it should be. I see a few more people popping up, but I think for the most part, we got everyone. Oh, there's a little bug in the middle. I'll say that. Okay, so we'll say majority of you are interested in learning about engaging stakeholders, which is great because that's what I wanted to talk about today. And there will be some, bits and pieces about going viral specifically, but what I really want to sort of push is this or push you away from is this idea of sort of these short-term interactions and opportunities to sort of like make an impact. Whereas we really want to be building relationships, we want to be building potential clients. If that's what you're looking for, we want to be building relationships with people who can volunteer for our organizations, with people who can donate. And so with that being said, we really want to focus on how can we use social media as a tool for creating for the life of our organization long relationships with people. Awesome. So I wanted to go through a bit of an overview comparing the differences between contagion or virality and engagement. You can see that there are some similarities, and I use the word contagion because it's sort of more linked to academia, and I'll explain that a little bit later. So with that being said, contagion and virality are really important and something that you probably are more drawn to when you think about terminology used with social media. The pros of those are there's a burst of endorphins. There's also broad visibility. So that means you're going to make a post and a lot of people are going to see it. And then there's some cons as well. So the cons would be it's a time-consuming process to create and push content. Eventually, people who are viral have to basically be viral all the time in order to sustain that momentum, to capitalize on any sort of opportunities, and then to be able to stay within sort of like on the right side of the algorithm. So algorithms specifically, I'll speak about Facebook, really push forward content that's gonna sort of be shocking, that's gonna cause a lot of people to like or comment or share. And so if you're in that sort of bubble of virality, of contagion, then you have to kind of, keep that up to be able to have your content consistently seen. The other con of that ideology of contagion or virality is an increased cancel culture opportunity. I'm sure everyone is aware of what cancel culture is. And when you're in the spotlight, it's a lot more easy to, sort of be canceled, if you will. That's honestly emerging into a definite like a sort of research body. Like there are people who are now researching and doing research about cancel culture and the implications of that. And so it's not sort of just like an idea, it's definitely a social phenomenon that's reaching far beyond, just a social media platform. On the other side of that, we have engagement. So the pros of engagement are a steady digital growth, deeper connections. And so that includes comments, quote tweets, things like that, where people are actually putting an effort to make a comment, to share their perspective on what you posted. And then also there's some cons for that as well. And mostly it's about time. So it takes longer to build that audience. It requires consistency and mission clarity as well, which as nonprofits, as organizations, it's sometimes very difficult to consistently stay within your mission. And so those are things to consider. But with everything, with every pro, there is a con. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the research because that's, why I went to school. I wanted to know more about these natural phenomena from a scientific perspective. And so the first applicable theory I'll share with you is Sundar's main model. So that one is introduced by a researcher named Sundar, and it outlines a series of affordances of social media platforms. So you have features of a social media platform or any sort of tech application, and those would be things like likes, or I should say the actual like symbol, messaging, things like that. And then you have the affordances of social media. And so the affordances are the things that you sort of benefit from having the features of the app. So with messages, you get the affordance of being able to communicate with people. With the like button, you get the affordance of being able to show or express your sort of like positive support for something. And so there were four affordances that are discussed. They're abbreviated with the acronym name. So the first one is modality. The second one is agency. Then you have interactivity, and then also you have navigability. And so modality, and I'll use Facebook to describe or sort of explain to you how these concepts work. So when you're thinking about Facebook, modality would look like Facebook being harmonious with consumer information seeking wants and being readily accessible via mobile phone or computer for users with varying accessibility needs. For agency, Facebook users have control over what information content they contribute to the community. And then for interactivity, Facebook software allows for connection between users via hashtag groupings and algorithm curated content. So these groupings support the assertions presented by another researcher named Cook. And Cook states, it's now being said that we live in a post-truth era, an era in which audiences are more likely to believe information that appeals to emotions or existing personal beliefs, as opposed to seeking and readily accepting information regarded as factual or objective. And then there's navigability. So Facebook product, it's the Facebook product design is simplified, it's inviting for users to navigate, and the entire platform has these sort of easy to use features. Next, we have Berger's steps to contagion. So the steps to contagion are what you might more closely align with virality. So Berger's contagion theory explains how people become highly engaged with their environments. Berger argues that this is the case due to 6 basic principles, which drive products and ideas to a level of popularity that can be described as contagion. The 6 principles included in this theory are social currency triggers, emotion, public, practical value, and stories. These 6 principles are abbreviated by STEPS and encourage people to become attached and engaged in an idea or practice, such as seeking out information via social media platforms. So I wanted to use Facebook again to go through these different steps of the STEP acronym, so you'll better understand what I'm describing. So the first one is social currency. We share things that make us look good. So Facebook features include filters and other things like that that make us look our best, and they instill a sense of social comparison in the user. Next, we have triggers. So there's the saying that Berger uses, it tip of the tongue, top of the mind. And so that applies here in that Facebook's growth has made the company and platform a primary provider of social media features. And then there's emotion, which we are probably most familiar with. So Berger says, when we care, we share. So Facebook is all about sharing content that the content creator and viewers both share opinions about. And then we have public, and there he uses the saying built to show, built to grow. And so Facebook has made 94 acquisitions, making it a vast platform. It actually has consumed more than the 94 other apps and things such as that would contribute to the way that Facebook uses. And some of them they use to sort of advance the platform, and some of them they just consume, so there's no competition. And so that makes Facebook very public, very easy to sort of identify, and it draws people to it. And then we have practical value. So news you can use is what you want to think about here. There's various types of content that can be shared on Facebook, making it ideal for sharing practical information, such as sharing health information and things of that nature. And then there's stories. So information travels under the guise of idle chatter. And that's one thing that we really want to keep in mind as well. I'll talk about that a little bit later with the next theory, but the interpersonal nature of Facebook allows users to participate in what is seemingly idle chatter. And that is oftentimes dictated by the desire to conform. And so then you have, where people are sort of creating these trends, these aesthetics and things like that, where people, they share this information under this sort of like veil of, oh, it's just, things that we do on a day-to-day basis. It's nothing sort of extraordinary. It's just something that you can implement into your own life. And then the next theory that we have is conversational human voice. And so this, and I'll share the information behind this picture first. So I used this picture, or I used AI to create this picture. And what I wanted was, what I put as my prompt was, I wanted to get people, I wanted a picture of people speaking through a computer. And so that's what I put in, and this is what came out. And so it is close. You can tell that these are people. You can tell there's a computer, but it's definitely off. And one of those things that makes it off is sort of like the weird, 3D effect of the image. But then also, I'm pretty sure this person is talking to themselves, unless they're a twin or something. It wasn't very like authentic, right? And not necessarily something that you would see in nature. So the conversational human voice theory is pretty closely related to the sort of concept, this idea that's presented by this AI image, in that conversational human voice is a concept that results in inauthentic relationships that seem real. So the concept is originally described by the Clue Manifesto by Levine et al., which is a 1999 publication. And the human voice is described as a new manner of corporate talk, distinct from traditional corporate and marketing communication. The voice is more similar to that of a trusted friend, as opposed to an entity of business. And this voice is unattainable by most business entities. So what we want to take away from this is that, although you are using a digital platform, you're using a social media application or something like that, you really want to stay true to your voice, because people can and will be able to sort of identify if you're not authentic, if you're, just sort of doing something to get it done, as opposed to really wanting to communicate and engage with them. And so why does online engagement matter? I chose this quote by Waters and Lowe, and they state that a static online presence is almost as dangerous as a no web presence at all. A static online presence can be a negative signal to potential stakeholders, resulting in the loss of clients, volunteers, and donors. And so in the preliminary research that I've done so far in my dissertation writing, there are definitely fluctuations in the way that I'm looking at art museums specifically, how they and when they post and things like that. And you can tell the difference between those that spend a lot of energy, a lot of effort in making sure that they have a social media presence, versus those that sort of, put it on the back burner. So I came up with this formula, and this is based off of my experiences doing a lot of research about these things, and then also my experiences as a grassroots organizer, as a business owner, as an artist, and things like that. And so I have identified that there are three main types of nonprofits in the nonprofit sphere: those that are providing an experience, those who are working to become obsolete, and then those who are providing a service. Those providing an experience might include things, sort of initiatives that that are dealing with like events, galas, things like that. Those who are working to become obsolete might be an example, such as like Save the Whales. So they want to do this work, they want to successfully do this work until they're no longer needed. And then there are organizations that provide a service, such as those who help unhome people, people who may have been a victim to a fire and things like that. So the first thing, or I should say the second thing after understanding what your nonprofit is and does, is to pick a platform. So this is a list of 25 social media sites that aren't Facebook. They're compared to Facebook, which is, quite popular, but the main purpose of showing you this is that there are lots of social media sites. And so we really, sort of gravitate to the ones that are right public, as Berger was describing, the Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, but there are so many. And so I want you to really think about why Instagram has such a hold on us. Like, there are other ways that you might be able to more adequately reach your audiences. And you may be surprised, at how many people are on those sites. Discord is a great example. Discord was not super popular even like 5 years ago. And it was more niche based and popular with gamers, whereas I've gone to multiple conferences that use Discord as their site for, conference goers communicate virtually. So there's a lot of things, out there that you can really access. And I think it's important to just note that, you know, you're not limited, excuse me, to the social media site that you use. So pick your platform. Next, what you want to do is decide what you want to post. And first, you want to think about your audience. So what are your audience coming to learn? What are they coming to get from you? Are they looking for services? Are they looking for tips or hacks, self-help, education, or maybe the life they envision? So maybe they're looking to see how your lifestyle that you're presenting looks and how they can integrate that into their own. And then you want to also consider what Lovejoy and Saxon bring up here. And that's how you should post. And so I really appreciated this research because for one, they use Twitter posts, which there's not a lot of research that analyzes Twitter posts when it comes to engagement. And especially for nonprofits, which this research did, and they made it really nicely packaged. And so Lovejoy and Saxon have three sort of buckets that these nonprofit Twitter posts fell into in their study. Information, the information bucket was one, the community bucket, and then the action bucket was the third one. And so to give you an example, an information tweet was sort of a one-sided push out of information to followers. So an example was from World Vision USA, and it was just a tweet about a tribal clash with police. So there's no real interaction, it's just giving you information, right? There's a second one called community. That one is engaging and pulling in followers. And then there's a third one, action, which is requesting or charging followers, the audience, to do something for you or with you. And so the results of that research were pretty interesting. Most of the tweets fell in the information category, but tweets in the community designation were anticipated to lead to optimal engagement between nonprofit organizations and social media followers. And so these community tweets were a little bit harder than just sort of like copying and pasting some information and tweeting it, but those sort of tweets were really what helped people to create conversation, create community, create engagement through the Twitter microblogging platform. And then you want to think about like when and how often you're going to post. And so these are very sort of tricky for me because it's hard, right? If you're not a big organization, to be able to consistently be posting, you know, at a particular time or something like that. Lucky for you, the information about when and how to post is everywhere. So you don't have to be perfect about it. And you really do need to like sort of gauge your audience. You need to gauge how different timelines work for you when you're posting. I say timelines as in like, am I posting every 3 hours on one day, or am I posting every day at a certain time? You know, so just play around and figure out what works for you. Morning, afternoon, and evening are like, you know, sort of the ideal, and I should say these time brackets are sort of the ideal times to post, but I've seen research that says that when you post really late at night, it comes up on people's feeds earlier. And I'll have to be, you know, transparent about the fact that algorithms are something that we have no idea about. And so because these organizations, I should say these technology companies, are private, they don't have to share that information, and we have no idea what the algorithms are doing. So you can have a plan and it can work, and then they can change the algorithm and it cannot work anymore. And so you shouldn't hold on too tightly to sort of this idea about when to post and how often to post, because it could work and then it cannot work based on, you know, the organization and the company's sort of way of designing the algorithm or redesigning the algorithm. You do want to be consistent. And so in your posting, you want to be consistent about when you're posting. And that's only because I think it's more helpful for you to have like sort of a schedule. I find it quite daunting, and I know that other people do, to be always thinking about like, is this content? When should I be posting? Should I be posting this meal I'm eating right now? You know, and so all of those things can sort of be alleviated if you're like, okay, I'm going to post at 6 p.m. on Monday and Wednesday, and then it's off your list. If you have a social media manager within your organization, which a lot of the research that I've seen says that nonprofits don't really use a lot of consultants about this, or designate a person to handle their social media, then you can post at least once a day because there's someone designated, you know, who's specifically doing that. If you don't, have a social media manager, if you are your social media manager, as I am, you want to post it about 3 times a week. And so that keeps people aware of your content, that keeps you visible without it being daunting for you, as well as you can still get out, a big amount of information by posting at least 3 times a week. I have seen that it's most helpful to comment, maybe wait about an hour after each post. You should kind of catch those comments that come in. And then after that, just make sure you comment, message, mention, or check for comments, messages, and mentions at least once a day, or once every 2 days, so you don't miss out on opportunities. I've had job opportunities and things like that in my inbox, and they've only been in Instagram or something like that, and I didn't go on it for 3 days, and I'm like, oh gosh, okay. So it's just helpful if you're gonna be a social media person, you're gonna be on social media, just make yourself a schedule that kind of helps you to alleviate the stress of always thinking about social media. Awesome. So we have 30 minutes left, and I wanted to kind of go through these things with you all. I wanted to explicitly leave time for questions, but also have a few people, if you're willing, discuss with me some ideas that you might implement based on the information I've shared with you today. And so I sort of laid out all that we talked about in the last 30 minutes, and I want to give about 5 minutes for you to ruminate on these ideas. And afterwards, I'd love for you to share with us a social media content plan that answers these questions, which are, who are you? So tell me about your organization. What are you posting? You can use one of these buckets, but you can use something else if that's what suits your organization. And then how are you posting? And I'm sorry, when are you posting? So morning, afternoon, or evening, which one you would gauge from, what your experience with social media so far, which one you would gauge as being the best time to post. And then how are you posting using Lovejoy and Saxon's free sort of information, community, and action buckets based on the Twitter data that they collected. I can refresh you on those if you need. And then how often are you posting? So are you leaning towards the 1 post per day, or the 3 posts per week, or maybe more? I want to know more about, your organization through these questions. And so if you'll oblige me, I'll give you 5 minutes and then we'll talk a little bit. Awesome. So I just want to check in. We're at about 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Are we good to go forward? I don't want to hold that time. Okay, awesome. Great. So I did the activity as well. So I'll share what I came up with, and then we'll take a couple volunteers. Okay, so my company is called Edible Data Visuals, and to answer the first question, who are you? I answered Edible Data Visuals is a company focused on helping nonprofit and small organizations build social media engagement with stakeholders. The question, what are you posting? For that one, I answered, I post reels about audio, about technology, data literacy, and digital engagement. Concerning when are you posting? I post during the evenings when decision leaders in organizations are at home enjoying their downtime and most likely scrolling Instagram or Facebook and things like that, apps like that. And then how are you posting? I post action posts most often. I also post information posts as well. The action posts are mainly concerning organizational decision makers reaching out to me for help. So that's the audience that I'm hoping is looking at my posts and who will respond to my posts. And then how often are you posting? So I post at least 3 times a week. I should say my goal is to post at least 3 times a week. It is a challenge and things come up, and sometimes I post earlier in the day because I missed a post, something like that. But my goal is to post at least 3 times a week. It's worked for me. Honestly, I started sort of a experiment, if you will, just to see how many followers I could accumulate and consistently keep. And so last, I think it was a late winter, I had about 800 followers or so, and I've amassed about 955 or so. And so I'm happy with my 150 followers, and they haven't gone anywhere. And I think that's really important because that means those people care about what I'm talking about. I still, get people who reach out to me. If they see opportunity that might, be something I'm interested in, and it's not. I'm not, losing anything by sort of building these followers slowly. I do cross post on Facebook and things like that to kind of streamline the posting sort of burden, and it's working. So with that, if anyone's interested in sharing, I'd love to hear. Let me pull up. Have any takers?
I mean, I can share if no one is going to share. There's no excuse to talk to Sabrina because I always love talking to Sabrina.
I'll take it.
No, hey everybody. Oh, Shannon's in here too. Oh, what's happening? All the good people in here. No, I'll share real fast. I mainly joined here because this is Mike Murray, by the way. I have a podcast called Cultivated Ignorance, which is basically like a subsidiary of my business, The Playlist. And we're great at podcasting and terrible at promoting the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We literally just want to talk and the people find us. So as far as getting better with that, as identifying who we are, we're definitely 2 cats who are just trying to give an experience. The tagline for the show is basically where Black excellence meets like Blacker debauchery, because we basically we're 2 goofballs, we're 2 comedians. We don't know a whole lot, but we are trying to just give people a new perspective on life and how we interact with each other. How to just be more inclusive in our thoughts, in our in our language. Just be different Black men in general. And as far as what we're posting, it's definitely like a mix of comedy and education. We've had actual comedians on to talk about the state of Black comedy, as well as whole theorists. Like I've had Frank Wilderson on. We've had intimacy educators on. Like we've had anybody you can think of, just a broad range of just thoughts. And like I said, just trying to give people an experience. The goal has been to post at least in the morning or afternoon, at least 3 times a week. And the posts are definitely like action centered. Like we usually post something. You talked about the kind of viral type of posts. We don't really do a lot like a lot of controversy type of things. We're not really into that. But we do want to post something provocative to just get people charged up into commenting on the video, the reel or whatever like that. So it's definitely action centered as well as community centered, because we actually want people to have conversations. Again, we don't want to just tell people what to think. We want people to come through with their thoughts and even prove us wrong sometimes. And yeah, I think I answered all the questions.
I'm just dropping your link in there.
Oh, thank you so much.
Sure, I know you were driving.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I appreciate
No worries. No, that's interesting. I've been on the podcast probably earlier in the existence of the podcast, but
yes, you were in the deception phases for sure.
right. So I've seen the growth, and I know that you all get a lot of traction when you are posting your live stream and videos, live stream and things like that. I'm wondering, what sort of audience are you trying to get more attention from?
I am definitely, we are trying to get the audience who, again, just wants to have fun, have a good laugh, but also, again, just open your mind up into seeing the world differently.
Mm-hmm.
Even like just a little bit, even just like something that you thought you knew straight up and down all around, just getting a new perspective on how you view relationships or education, self-love, whatever it may be.
Right.
Like basically open-minded, but easygoing people as the target audience.
Understood. Awesome. I think it's really important. And I'm familiar with your page and your work, and I know that it's important work and it's entertaining as well. Just my last question is, have you done any sort of exploration about like expanding hashtags that you use, or adding, mentioning particular other accounts that you might want to collaborate with or that relate to your weekly topic?
This is the thing, Sabrina. Like we collaborate. We collaborate all the time. We have such a dope community. Like the Instagram followers not reflect the actual community at all. Like, we have such a great community, but as far as actual posting, we just trash at it. Like we're just not good at being consistent and looking up, researching hashtags, being consistent with what time to post, when the audience is there the most. So I don't know if we just need to hire somebody, honestly, or if there's just like a super bare bones guide to where it's like minimum effort, but still high engagement plan to just get the Instagram stuff up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can
I jump in and offer a little bit of insight on that, what you just said, Mike?
Of course you can, please.
Okay. What's up, everybody? Good to see y'all again, Mike, Sabrina. So you're talking about like having a hard time being consistent with posting, and it's something I struggle with too. But a tool I have used before and that I intend on using again is the Meta Business Suite, and it links your Facebook and your Instagram, and it has a whole bunch of tools that allow you to automate a lot of your posting. So instead of having to consistently remember to log in every day and post every day, you can use their scheduling app where you can sit down and crank out a bunch of posts at like one time. So like maybe you set aside an hour or 2 hours to just make a bunch of content, and then you can schedule it to post whenever you want to. And that tool also it gives you all your analytics, and it recommends the best times to post based on when your followers are most engaged at certain times on certain days. So, if you sat and like brainstormed up a bunch of content at one time when the ideas are flowing, and write it all out, make the whole post and just schedule it. And that way you can sit back and you can post stories, reels, and posts, and they can go to both Instagram and Facebook. You can make the same post and then make a variation that goes like one version of the copy goes to Instagram, one version of the copy goes to Facebook. Because you know, like on Facebook, links work in your post, and on Instagram they don't. So like you might want to switch up some of your copy depending on where the post is showing up. But yeah, it's called the Meta Business Suite. I absolutely recommend that.
Instagram allows you. I was gonna just piggyback on Dogon was saying. Instagram allows you to schedule as well. And also, I have my website hosted through GoDaddy, and they give you similar suite. They give you the analytics, but you can also create posts. You can like edit pictures, like little backgrounds, things you can do with Photoshop. And then schedule posts. They give you sort of a list of different holidays that you can reference. So, you know, like Taco Day, International Taco, just like all kinds of things that you can sort of use to fuel your content creation. And then one thing that I've been really finding helpful is using ChatGPT to generate content as well. And so I know that you probably have a script or some talking notes. You could always throw that into ChatGPT, generate content, like your what am I trying to say? You know, like the stuff you say under your posts. And hashtags. There's another tool that's based through, it's a Microsoft tool. I'll send it to you. I can email it to you as well. That one can generate images such as like logos, all kinds of stuff. So as you know, Dogon was saying, it might be just really helpful to try and use technology to like problem solve some of these issues. So it's like less thinking about what to post and when to post, you know?
That'd be perfect. See, that's why y'all don't, because I forgot about MetaSuite, and I never did. And this is shameful because I work in IT. I never did use ChatGPT. Don't tell nobody that part. But that I appreciate y'all. Like, yes, that would help me out so much because the discipline is not there.
I co-signed ChatGPT. That thing is a beast. I was struggling to figure out like copy for my tarot deck post that I do, and like I just typed in a handful of I typed in some prompts and did a little tweaking with the prompts, and like it gave me like an essay's worth of paragraphs to just use and like play around with, and you know it happened in like an instant. Like it would have taken me days, if not weeks, to write that much copy, and it spit it out in like an instant. So that's great. I use the hell out of it. Like you'll love it.
Yeah. The other thing
the content's like good. It's not like, it doesn't sound like a robot made it. It's like real deal, like, you know, like ad copy. So I mean, you'd have to pay for that.
I would also say, and I'm not sure what kind of content, probably not so much for you, Mike, and I know artists and AI don't mix, but there is one called DALL-E, D-A-L-L -E. And that one generates images. That's actually the one that I use for the image in my presentation. And I've been using that one for probably 8 or 9 months. And it's just cool, but you can really optimize that too. If you need images, not so much for your creative work, but if you need background images, if you need, you know, just stuff that's like filler content, it's definitely a good resource.
You said DALL-E?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. It's DALL -E, like the artist DALL-E, D-A-L-I.
Oh, DALL-E. Yes, yes. Okay, gotcha. Thank y'all so much.
Put those in the chat. And then I see a message. Let's see. Sure. I got a message from Melanie. No problem. I'll copy your information and I'll let me just take a picture. Awesome. Was there anyone else that wanted to share? Let's see, we're at 5:49. So I think we have time for another one if anyone's interested.
Dwayne has his hand up.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm with the Pawleys Island Concert Band over in Pawleys Island, South Carolina. And it says who you are. Or we are a community band serving the communities of Georgetown and Horry County, better known as the South Strand. And we perform several free concerts each year and provide an array of traditional concert band music from big band, marches, jazz, and show tunes. And all of our members are volunteers of all ages. And where we promote musicianship and we present highly quality, enjoyable music. And let me see what else. What are you posting? Well, what we post are our concert dates and times, and also we post whenever we have a concert that we did, we post snippets of that. And most of our followers are morning people, so we post around 9 a.m. And what else? We have about we get about 1,000 likes on Facebook and about 1.1K followers on Facebook, and we have about 156 followers on Instagram, and we use Meta Business Suite for Facebook and our Instagram posts.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. That's really cool. That you all are able to optimize, your posting so well. When is there someone that does it that just has, that job, or is that something that you all kind of share, that the weight of, I shouldn't say the weight, the responsibility of your posting?
Well, the person that does it for us is Betty Turner, and
okay.
She's one of our administrators, and she's assistant to the president, and I'm the president of Polish Island Concert Band.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, awesome. You have a designated person. That's super important. It's like a game changer, right? Like, it's
absolutely.
In one of the labs I work in, we have someone like an office manager / social media manager as well, and we have these meetings where we're like these team meetings every Monday where we're just bouncing off ideas, but also just like sharing what we're doing. So there's always content going and things like that. So I commend you all for being so proactive. And can you just share a little bit about how you've seen, and I don't know when Betty started managing the social media content, but can you walk me through the trajectory, sort of a little bit of comparison, if you have it, between when you sort of weren't so involved and when you've become more involved?
Well, I think she really started getting into it because where we I guess assigned her with those duties in the past 3 to 4 years, and before that our numbers were really low, and even in the the time we're in Polish Island, people really didn't know about us. So
right.
we could have a concert because we have our annual concerts here in Polish twice a year, but there would be people in Polish that didn't know about us until she took over our media presence.
Awesome. That's cool. That's really, really awesome. Yeah, y'all are doing it. I don't know. That was great. I don't have anything to say.
Well, we appreciate what you're doing here, and try to instruct and teach us in which way to go, because we've learned a lot today, and so we appreciate you very much.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate y'all coming.